Today is Sunday, March 5th, 2017, and today we got to talk about Obama and the Trump Tower wiretapping. Oh yeah, this has really been a hot button issue over the past 12 to 24 hours. And we spoke about this last night in my live stream right here on YouTube. And I thank you to everybody that called in and said that Obama most certainly is behind what's going on here and that the wiretapping did happen. I did not have a lot of information last night. All I had was the tweets, and that's pretty much what the news media at the time that I saw, that's what they were reporting on. And of course, the fake news industrial complex, as I call them, they said that it was fake right away. They said that, oh, it's unsubstantiated claims. Trump has no evidence to say that Obama was involved in any kind of wiretapping, etc. That's what they were saying. But in my mind, I'm like, hey, wait a minute here. You can't just say that like it's categorically false without doing any kind of investigation. Maybe there is some evidence. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. And sure enough, Mark Levin, among many others, but definitely Mark Levin is who I'll focus on right now before I play his video. He found a lot of evidence. He presented it. He had printed documents from different news media organizations, from left-wing news media organizations like I think New York Times. Places like that have been reporting on this for an extended period of time. Now, before we get into Mark Levin's video, I just want to give you a brief overview of what's happening. Now, like I said, Donald Trump accused Barack Obama, maybe the Obama administration, of wiretapping the Trump Tower. The media says it's false. But the backstory is in June of 2016, the Obama administration appealed to the FISA court to be able to get a wiretap at Trump Tower due to allegations of so-called Russian espionage or a Russian spy, etc. Now, if you don't know what FISA is, I'll explain it to you briefly. Now, FISA is an acronym that stands for the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act of 1978. Purpose of the act is to identify any foreign agents, any foreign nationals that may be colluding with their host country in the United States for any kind of subversive methods or any kind of illegitimate means. So that is really the reason behind this whole Russophobic language that's been parroted all throughout the media. I think it's been like a marketing campaign to make the Trump administration look like they are in bed with the Russians. So that's their angle to get in to the Trump Tower to be able to wiretap it. Because as you know, Barack Obama was campaigning for Hillary Clinton. So what better way to delegitimize the opposing side than to use your federal authority to go and wiretap his residence and then try to find some dirt on him that they can use during the campaign or later. This may be where some of these leaks are coming from, because you're talking about Michael Flynn, you're talking about Jeff Sessions, etc. How did these leaks get out? What's really going on? This may be where they're coming from. Now, they went to the FISA court in June. They were rejected. They said there's not enough information. There's not enough evidence you have a weak case. But they went back to the court. Obama's administration that is, they went back to the FISA court in October, and then their scope was a little bit more narrow, and then they were granted the warrant. Now, from what I've been able to attain from the news media before we get to Mark Levin's video, is that the warrant to wiretap and to surveil Donald Trump and Trump Tower, maybe his affiliates, had expired before the end of Obama's term. But that's when Obama came in and said, hey, let's extend some of these things here. He had like this midnight order about the NSA. So that could be related to what's going on here to extend the length of the actual wiretapping. The warrant is over because it didn't find anything. It's over with. But for some reason, they were still doing surveillance and wiretapping the Trump Tower that could still be in effect right now today. I'm not sure if they have been able to dismantle that or whatever. But the point is that the wiretapping was going on after the warrant had expired. Now, what I want to do right now is jump to Mark Levin in his video. It's a great video. It's about 10 minutes long. So get something cold to drink. You're going to be here for a while. He had a great interview on Fox News. And what he says is pretty much ironclad. And it's not just Mark Levin that has substantiated Trump's claim, basically. There are others, and I'll put all their links in the box below. But without further ado, go ahead and roll it.
Pleasure to be here. The evidence is overwhelming. This is not about President Trump's tweeting. This is about the Obama administration's spying. And the question isn't whether it's spied. We know they went to the FISA court twice. The question is, who did they spy on? The extent of the spying. That is, the Trump campaign, the Trump transition, Trump surrogates. And I want to walk you through this, the American people. Exhibit 1. Exhibit 1. This is all public. Head Street. 2 separate sources with links to the counterintelligence community have confirmed that the FBI sought and was granted a Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act court. This is spying. In October, giving counterintelligence permission to examine the activity of, quote, U.S. persons in Donald Trump's campaign with ties to Russia. Let me go on. This isn't me. They say the first FISA request, sources say, named Trump, was denied back in June, denied by the court. But the second was drawn more narrowly and was granted in October after evidence was presented of a server possibly related to the Trump campaign and its alleged links to 2 banks. Now, sources suggest that a FISA warrant was granted to look at the full content of emails and other related documents that may concern U.S. persons. Now, I know people are hung up with Trump's word wiretapping. Well, how'd they get access to this server information? Does it really matter if it was wiretapping, electronic surveillance, or whatever it was? Exhibit 2, The Guardian, a well-known right-wing British paper. Here it is. Quote, The Guardian has learned the FBI applied for a warrant from the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court over the summer in order to monitor 4 members of the Trump team suspected of irregular contacts with Russian officials. Keep in mind, this is during a presidential election. The sitting president, the incumbent party, is now investigating the presidential candidate of the Republican Party and his campaign to some extent. The FISA court turned down the application asking FBI counterintelligence investigators to narrow its focus. According to one report, the FBI was finally granted a warrant in October. Exhibit 3, McClatchy, another well-known right-wing newspaper. Here they have the agencies. Headline, FBI, 5 other agencies, 5 other Obama administration agencies probe possible covert Kremlin aid to Trump. The FBI and 5 other law enforcement intelligence agencies have collaborated for months in an investigation into Russian attempts to influence the November election, including whether money from Kremlin covertly aided presidential-elect Donald Trump. 2 people familiar with the matter said the agencies involved in the inquiry are the FBI, the CIA, the NSA, the Justice Department, the Treasury Department's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, and representatives of the Director of the National Intelligence. Are you telling me Barack Obama didn't know what was going on in 6 agencies?
As you
hold
go
on,
how are you?
Okay,
keep going.
I'm not done. I need to make the case because the media seems to be confused about their own reporting. New York Times, another well-known liberal outlet, intercepted Russian communications, part of inquiry into Trump associates, January 19. The FBI is leading the investigations, aided by the NSA, the CIA, Treasury Department's Financial Crimes Unit. The investigators have accelerated their efforts in recent weeks, but have found no conclusive evidence of wrongdoing. Listen to this. One official said intelligence reports based on some of the wiretap communications have been provided to the White House. This is the New York Times,
another right-wing outlet.
4.
Another right-wing outlet,
Let's continue. New York Times again. NSA gets more latitude to share intercepted communications. In the final days of the Obama administration, the administration has expanded the power of the NSA to share globally intercepted personal communications with the government's 16 other intelligence agencies before applying privacy protections. Now, why would they do this on the way out the door? Well, March 1, Exhibit 6, Obama administration rushed to preserve intelligence of Russian election hacking. In the Obama administration's last days, listen to this, some White House officials scrambled to spread information about Russian efforts to undermine the presidential election and about possible contacts between associates of President-elect Trump and Russians across the government. I'm not done. Exhibit 7, New York Times. Flynn is said to have talked to Russians about sanctions Trump took office. Well, where'd they get this information? Well, Mark, you know, the FISA court, they're always monitoring the Russian ambassador. And so how do we know that? Maybe they are, maybe they're not. But there's an awful lot of other activity.
Sure.
Here we have Washington Post. One more. Washington Post, March 2nd. U.S. investigators have examined contacts Attorney General Sessions had with Russian officials during the time he was advising Donald Trump's campaign. The focus of the U.S. counterintelligence investigation has been on communication between Trump campaign officials and Russia. Listen to this. The inquiry involving Sessions is examining his contacts while serving as Trump's foreign policy advisor in the spring and summer of 2016. This has been going on for a year.
Well, Mark,
now,
as you do on your radio program, you lay out a devastating case based on public documents, as you point out, and not right-wing sources, but mainstream left-stream sources. How confident are you that this investigation, which was on so-called Russian hacking, but now the White House says this morning will be broadened to looking into executive overreach? How confident are you they will find something there?
I don't know, but they already found something. The issue isn't whether the Obama administration spied on the Trump campaign or transition or certain of its surrogates. The issue is the extent of it. They went into court a second time. They were so aggressive. They waited 4 or 5 months. They go back in October, weeks before the general election. They narrow their request. All of a sudden, we have leaks coming out on Flynn. Then we have a horrible meeting that took place between Sessions and so forth. And I'm telling you, as a former chief of staff to an attorney general of the United States in the Reagan administration, these are police state tactics. Now, what did Barack Obama know? He knew everything I just read you apart from 1 or 2 articles. You know how I know? It's in the newspapers. It's right there. So Barack Obama not only knew this, but he gets a daily intelligence briefing. And let me tell you something about daily intelligence briefings. If your attorney general and your FBI is going to the FISA court to get a warrant to investigate aspects of an opposition party in the middle of a general election campaign, how much you want to bet the President of the United States knew that?
I don't want to bet you on that.
Read his opinion. Let me first say, this is the case made by the New York Times, the Washington Post, McClatchy, and the rest of them. I just put it together as a former Justice Department official. And Donald Trump here is being attacked for what he tweeted. Donald Trump is the victim. His campaign is the victim. His transition team is the victim. His surrogates are the victim. These are police state tactics. I am telling you this as a former chief of staff to an attorney general. If this had been done to Barack Obama, all hell would break loose. And it should. And Barack Obama's statement is pathetic.
Mark.
Let me just say this. Where does it go from here? They ought to release both FISA court applications where they sought the warrant. The one in the summer and the one in October. So we know exactly what they were doing. That's number one. Number two, Congress needs to see the daily presidential intelligence briefings over the past year or so. Those are the beginnings of a serious investigation. Number three, for the Republicans in Congress, you control the majority. If the Democrats do not want to assist, and they won't, because I was starting to think Chuck Schumer and the others are participating in all this cover-up activity, then plow ahead without them. But this is important to the country. We cannot have a sitting presidential administration unleashing 6 federal agencies, intelligence and law enforcement. I don't mean the president personally sitting there and saying, you know what, Valerie, let's go get him. Obviously, the attorney general and the FBI were involved in this. This is how you get a FISA court application prepared and submitted.
Do you think former President Obama was involved in this? And if so, how much was he involved?
I'm not Nostradamus here. I just think that we ought to find out. But I will tell you this. He's more involved than he says. I mean, it's his executive branch. It's his Justice Department. Mine's been the IRS. All of a sudden, the IRS is targeting American citizens. I don't know anything about it. We have reporters, including James Rose in the AP, where the Obama administration did more investigations of reporters than any administration in American history. They're quite capable of these things. But it doesn't matter. We want to know what took place, and there ought to be public hearings on this stuff, too. I agree with the Democrats. Let's get to the bottom of this. So join me. Join us. This is the public record. Yeah. It's the newspaper of record, the New York Times. Let's go.
All right, you made it to the end. You know, that's pretty much all it is to it. I mean, his case, in my opinion, Mark Levin's is pretty ironclad. It's pretty rock solid. I don't see what more can be added to it. I don't see how anybody could poke holes in it. You know, I pretty much gave you the rundown of what's going on. Mark Levin gave you all the evidence, all the documented facts that we have. Now, the only question that will be raised is, did Obama do anything illegal? And the only way you're going to be able to get him on any kind of criminal charges is if what he did or what his administration did was at his behest. You got to be able to prove that. And also, you got to be able to prove that it was done in a malicious fashion, because being able to attain a wiretap from the FISA Act, from the FISA court, is not illegal in itself, but the pretext in which it was obtained could be illegal, because if it's determined that that warrant was obtained to be able to destroy the opposing side of the candidate you endorse, that right there could be considered unethical, maybe even illegal, depending upon a certain interpretation of the law. I'm not quite sure, but that definitely should be something that's looked at right there. It can't just be ignored. And beyond legality or whatever, the ethics are clearly just totally wrong. You know, you can't do stuff like that. If you are supporting a candidate and then you try to find little wormy ways to get at the other candidate and use your power of government to be able to make them seem like they're less trustworthy or whatever, that's just totally unethical. It would make the Democrat Party have a black mark on it. You got some people that are on the left that are like radicals and they'll appreciate that kind of behavior, but the average American does not like that kind of stuff. Dishonest, lying, deceitful. That's part of the reason why Hillary Clinton lost and Donald Trump won, even though she had double the money he had to use in the campaign. That's why people don't like dishonest, deceitful people at a certain point. So that's pretty much all I got for it. You know, like I said in my live stream, I wanted to wait till I got a smoking gun, a lot more evidence, and here we are. All the evidence is in the box. You saw Mark Levin. You heard my piece. So what do you think? Do you think that the whole Russophobic language that's been parroted all throughout the mainstream media has been an excuse to bolster the FISA court's decision to grant the warrant and also to excuse the wiretapping that happened at Trump Tower? Because to me, that's pretty much what it is. That's why there's been so much Russophobic language. Because really, as I close here, what's the big deal about Russia? Why are they so bad? Why are they the big bad villain here? What did they actually do to anybody to make them be just this big bad monster? I've not heard of any really direct allegations of what they have done that could potentially harm us as Americans or that has harmed their own people. But whatever you think, if you think I'm off point, if you think I'm on point, let me know in the comments below. That's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.
Kathy Aru is that insider. She's a liberal journalist who served as a senior advisor in the Bush administration, and she joins me now. So, Kathy, what do you know?
All right. Well, my sources this morning, my source from the White House told me she thinks it's all true. She said there were concerns that Trump, and this is from the White House and the administration, so inside the White House, there were concerns that Trump and his surrogates may have been colluding with the Russians as a possible bargaining chip to influence the election. Therefore, the wiretap was conducted.